You wake up, no buzz, no plans, no notifications lighting up your screen, just stillness, just you. That calm feels odd, almost too hushed. Then it strikes, that flicker of uncertainty, that heaviness in your core, that yearning, not for companionship, but for evidence you're valued by someone. That's when most men falter. They snatch their phones, they message someone they shouldn't, they scroll through diversions to feel linked, because the world claims silence signals a flaw, that if no woman's texting, no friends reaching out, you're lagging, you're unappealing, you're faltering. But what if silence isn't a penalty? What if it's an entryway? An entryway most men are too frightened to cross. The world trained you to dread solitude, but no one revealed what unfolds when you embrace it, when you cease pursuing clamor and confront the quiet. Here's the reality. The man who claims his solitude, who strides alone by choice, isn't feeble. He's potent. He's forging something unseen, something internal, unbreakable. This message isn't for every man. It's for those weary of being ignored, exhausted by performing for validation, done compressing themselves to fit spaces they've outgrown. It's for the man who's finished fleeing and prepared to ascend. In a world of brash opinions and frantic attention craving, the man who opts for calm becomes indelible. This isn't seclusion, it's restoration. You're not evading the world, you're reconnecting with yourself. Too many men drift from woman to woman, job to job, one fleeting connection to another, pursuing approval like breath. But when do you halt and question? What if I stop pursuing and just rest with myself? What unfolds is transformation. Your mind clarifies, your voice strengthens, your expectations elevate. And here's the irony. When you no longer require others to affirm your worth, that's when they start to see it. Before we delve deeper, I need you to write one thing in the comments. I choose solitude to forge my strength, not because it sounds noble, but because you're through hiding, because you're ready to stop pursuing and start evolving. This is your marker in the dirt. Type it, claim it, and let's proceed. Number 1, the fear of silence. You sit in the shadows. For once, there's no way out, no pings, no schedules, no one demanding your attention, just the rhythm of your breath and something weightier beneath it, your thoughts. Most men don't dread being alone. They dread what aloneness exposes, not the absence of others, but the weight of truth. Silence isn't vacant. It's piercing. It doesn't yell. It doesn't condemn you. It simply unlocks the chamber. The regrets you suppressed, the decisions you deferred, the versions of yourself you vowed to embody but never did. Abruptly, they all arrive, unbidden, unpolished. That woman who vanished, that opportunity you didn't seize, that commitment you betrayed to yourself when no one was watching. You try to turn away, but there's no diversion now, no dialogue to retreat into, no relationship to submerge in, no act to perform, just you and the reality you've evaded for years. And now the true question emerges. Will you confront it at last or flee once more? That's why most men keep moving, darting from woman to woman, ambition to ambition, screen to screen. Not to create something, but to elude something. Not her, not them, themselves. Silence peels away the facade. When it does, you either crumble or awaken. At first, silence is harsh. It grips your chest. It amplifies every doubt louder than any voice. You're inadequate. You'll always be overlooked. Nothing you do counts. But if you linger, if you breathe through the turmoil, if you cease trying to escape it, something changes. You realize you're still here, still breathing, still capable. And those thoughts, they're not you. They're remnants, outdated narratives. They tap, but you don't have to let them in. That's when clarity arrives, softly, without fanfare, just a steady awareness. You're not your history, not your regrets, not the woman who departed, not the man who faltered once. You're the man who endured, the one who didn't waver, who sat in his own blaze and refused to turn away. That's scarce. That's strength. That's stoic. Growth doesn't commence in the gym, not in texts, not in podcasts or motivational snippets. It starts in stillness, It begins the instant you deem yourself worth confronting. You rest in the tempest. Let it roar. Let it writhe. Let it shred every illusion. And you remain. You don't fill the emptiness. You let it persist. In doing so, you reclaim what most men never grasp: inner authority. From that silence, a new voice arises. Not brash, but firm. Not flawless, but authentic. And when you act again, you act with substance. Your words resonate deeper. Your presence feels grounded. Not because you've reshaped the world, but because you've returned to yourself. Here's the reality. The world doesn't need more men who conform. It needs men who can dwell in silence and emerge with focus. That man doesn't pursue. He doesn't justify. He doesn't plead to be noticed. He becomes noticed because his energy doesn't request, it proclaims. Number 2, approval detox. Most men are ensnared by something they can't perceive. Not liquor, not drugs, not wagering, but something far subtler: approval. They check their phones first thing, not for data, but for affirmation. Did she respond? Did they endorse my post? Did someone acknowledge me? It seems benign, but it's not. It's desperation cloaked as connection, reliance masquerading as warmth. What makes it perilous is its invisibility. No one cautions you. There's no recovery program, no intervention. But it corrodes you gradually, not just your actions, but how you perceive yourself. Seeking approval diminishes you. You agree when you want to shout no. You chuckle at things you don't find amusing. You evade silence, evade truth, evade standing alone to avoid dismissal. You think you're playing it safe, but you're playing small. You're bartering your voice for ease, your identity for praise, your freedom for acceptance. Over time, that need to be liked becomes a cage. You adorn it with flattery, but you're confined, trapped in the persona others crafted for you. Not the man you were destined to be. Here's the reality. Approval is a rush. It strikes swiftly, then dissipates. Like any rush, it leaves you craving more. More attention, more affirmation, more performance. But you exhaust yourself, not because you're weak, but because you've worn a disguise too long. Disguises grow heavy. There's another route. It's not simple, but it's genuine. It begins with a cleanse, an approval cleanse. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop tailoring your views to suit the crowd. You start posing tougher questions. Am I doing this because I believe it or because I seek approval? That question alone transforms everything. You stop chasing quick affirmations. You stop apologizing for having principles. You stop justifying yourself to those who never truly listened. At first, it feels like withdrawal. You sense the silence, the distance, the inner voices questioning, what if they no longer like me? But you rest in it. You breathe through it. You let the unease refine you. Gradually, a new voice surfaces. Not loud, not theatrical, but resolute. Your voice, the one buried beneath years of pretense, the one that speaks not to be heard, but because it must. Then the transformation occurs. You stop messaging to remain relevant. You stop laughing when it's not humorous. You begin safeguarding your time, your truth, your serenity. People notice. They detect something altered, a gravitas in your demeanor, a calm in your gaze. You don't need attention, you embody it. That's the irony. When you stop striving to be seen, you become impossible to overlook. Men who pursue approval fade into the clamor. Men who choose themselves stand apart, not by shouting, but by alignment. You know what you stand for. You know what you'll permit. Above all, you know who you are when no one's observing. That's the man people recall, not for being loud, but for being immovable. Approval detox is chaotic. It costs you shallow allies, fleeting smiles, temporary acclaim. But what you gain is everything. You earn respect, not demanded, but evoked. You gain peace, not from concealment, but from standing firm. You gain power, not from dominance, but from clarity. So ask yourself, are you still living to be liked? Still altering who you are to ease others? Or are you ready to choose yourself? Because when you truly do, something shifts. You stop pursuing. You stop justifying. You stop performing. You simply are, and the world observes. Number 3, clarity through solitude. There comes a moment in every man's life when the din subsides. What remains is calm, not imposed, not barren, just quiet. In that silence, something potent stirs. For the first time in ages, the haze clears. Not because the world shifted, but because you withdrew from it. You lowered the volume on expectations, pressures, relentless opinions, and finally heard what lingered beneath: yourself. Solitude isn't isolation, it's renewal. It's the act of stripping away all that isn't you so you can discern what is. In the frenzy, you're reactive, hurried, adjusting, conforming, performing, constantly verifying if you're meeting someone else's measure. But in solitude, you decelerate. You observe rather than react. You notice what you allow into your mind, your time, your essence. You realize how much of your thinking was borrowed. The ambitions weren't yours. The lifestyle wasn't yours. Even success was someone else's blueprint. You've been chasing a life that never felt like home. When you retreat, when the feed falls silent, when the phone stays untouched, when the weekend's unclaimed, something fresh emerges. Clarity. You begin posing better questions. Not what do others demand of me, but what do I truly desire? What fuels me? What depletes me? Who am I around certain people? And do I respect that man? Solitude allows you to confront those questions without interference, without pressure to respond swiftly, without needing validation for your answers. You dwell in it. You feel what's concealed. You breathe through the unease. Gradually, the reflection clarifies. You stop pretending you're content with things that feel misaligned. You stop enduring connections that feel vacant. You stop deceiving yourself to evade discomfort. You begin living in alignment, not flawless, but truthful, not polished, but sincere. You say no without remorse. You carve out space, not because you're aloof, but because you're discerning. You sever ties, not from spite, but from clarity. Solitude doesn't merely clear your mind, it hones your vision. You become deliberate. You no longer wake to endure the day. You wake with intent. Your routines align with your aims. Your circle mirrors your values. Your surroundings reflect who you are, not who you were striving to be. Something else shifts. You stop defending your choices to those who'll never grasp them. You don't argue. You don't validate. You simply live, and your life speaks. That's when you realize you're no longer open to drama, no longer susceptible to manipulation, no longer swayed by superficial noise. You're anchored. That rootedness makes you unyielding. People can disagree, misinterpret, or depart. You remain centered because you're not living for them. You're living for the man you were meant to become. That's the true gift of solitude. It incinerates distraction, noise, the versions of you that were never authentic. What remains is a man with peace in his core and purpose in his stride. He doesn't speak to impress. He speaks because his words carry weight. He doesn't pursue, he constructs. He doesn't need to be understood because he understands himself. So if your world feels hushed right now, don't panic. That silence isn't a void, it's an invitation. Your life is urging you to slow down and listen. You don't need more attention, more likes, more responses, more women, or more noise. You need more stillness, more solitude, more moments where you sit alone and reconnect with the man you've neglected too long, yourself. The man who strides alone isn't fractured. He's reconstructing. He's not escaping the world. He's returning to his essence, refining, sharpening, eliminating all that never belonged. He doesn't move like someone awaiting selection. He moves like someone who's already chosen himself. When you become that man, life aligns. The right people remain, the wrong ones fade. Opportunities no longer require pursuit. They find you. That's not sorcery, that's mastery. If this silence stirs something deep within you, don't just scroll. Leave a comment below and answer this. What's one distraction you're ready to release today? Then hit like, not because you were amused, but because something in you awakened. Subscribe to StoicSynth. If you're ready to build, not noise, not fame, but clarity, discipline, and quiet strength. Because here at StoicSynth, we're not chasing approval. We're forging men who lead from within.